Maya walked into the wedding hall slowly, her steps steady but full of purpose. It was a bright Saturday afternoon, and everything around her sparkled. Golden lights, white flowers, expensive perfume in the air, and laughter that seemed to fill every corner. Guests turned to look, smiling and chatting, but when they saw her, the noise softened into whispers. "Is that Ethan's ex-wife?" someone murmured. Heads turned. Eyes followed her every move. Maya pretended not to notice. She wore a simple but elegant dress, soft beige silk that flowed with every step. Her hair was pinned back neatly, her face calm, almost too calm. But inside her chest, her heart was beating fast, loud enough that she could almost hear it. At the front of the hall, Ethan stood in his dark suit, handsome and confident, at least until he saw her. The smile on his face froze. For a moment, it was as if time stopped. His new bride, Lena, looked from Ethan to Maya, confusion flickering in her eyes. There was something unspoken in the air, something heavy that no one could name. Maya met Ethan's gaze just once, then looked away. She didn't come here to fight, to embarrass, or to prove anything. Not anymore. In her hand, she held a small sealed letter. White envelope, plain, but somehow it drew more attention than the glittering decorations around her. People noticed it. She didn't hide it. Her fingers rested on it tightly, like it carried the weight of her heart. The music continued. The ceremony was about to begin. The bride's friends laughed softly, trying to ignore the tension, but everyone still stole glances at Maya. She walked quietly to the back row, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. She took a seat and folded her hands in her lap, the letter still there. Her face looked peaceful, almost emotionless, but her eyes told another story, a storm waiting to break. Ethan kept glancing her way, trying to focus on the ceremony, but his hands were trembling slightly. Lena noticed, and the faint joy on her face began to fade. Maya sat still, watching, saying nothing. The chatter and laughter slowly returned, but the energy had changed. The air felt thicker now, heavier. The camera, if there was one, would have stayed on that letter, the quiet envelope resting in her hand. No one knew what it contained, but something about it felt powerful, maybe even dangerous. And as the choir began to sing and everyone turned toward the altar, Maya stayed where she was, silent, composed, and holding the one thing that could change everything. Her life with Ethan had once felt like a dream. He was charming, funny, and confident, the kind of man who made everyone in the room pay attention. When Maya first met him, she believed he was the one. Their love started fast, full of late-night talks, surprises, and promises that seemed unbreakable. For a while, everything looked perfect. They were the couple everyone admired, smiling in photos, holding hands at parties, talking about their future. But slowly things began to change. Ethan's words turned sharp, his tone colder. Little by little, he started making her question herself. When she spoke up about something that hurt her, he would laugh and say she was too sensitive. When she asked him where he had been, he'd accuse her of not trusting him. Maya began to shrink without realizing it. She stopped talking about her feelings because it always led to fights. She started apologizing even when she hadn't done anything wrong. The man she loved began to treat her like she was the problem. Then came the messages, late-night texts from a woman she didn't know, small clues that grew into undeniable proof. Maya discovered Ethan had been having an emotional affair. When she confronted him, he twisted the truth so cruelly that she began to doubt herself. He told her she was imagining things, that she was crazy. He said she was trying to ruin his happiness. And then he left. Just like that. He moved out, leaving her with nothing. No explanation, no closure, not even kindness. Maya's world collapsed. She couldn't eat. She barely slept. The house felt like a graveyard of memories. Every photo, every gift, every corner filled with ghosts of who they used to be. Her mother was the one who refused to let her fall apart. She moved in, cooked for her, sat beside her when she cried. Maya's brother, Jordan, called her every day, reminding her that she wasn't broken, that she had been hurt by someone who didn't know how to love. Months passed, then years. Healing wasn't easy, but Maya slowly started to rebuild herself piece by piece. She went to therapy, started journaling, took long walks, and learned how to breathe again. She learned that being alone wasn't punishment, it was peace. She stopped waiting for an apology that would never come. By the third year, she had changed. She was no longer the woman who cried over Ethan's lies. She had found strength in her pain. Her heart still had scars, but they were no longer open wounds. Then, one morning, as she opened her mailbox, she froze. There it was, an elegant white envelope with gold writing. Ethan and Lena's wedding invitation. For a moment, Maya couldn't breathe. Her fingers trembled as she read the names. The same man who broke her heart was now getting married, inviting her, as if to say, "Look what I've found without you." Her first instinct was to throw it away. But something inside her whispered, "Don't hide. Not this time." She sat with the invitation for days, thinking about everything. The years she lost, the tears she shed, and the woman she had become. Going to that wedding wasn't about him. It was about her. About facing the last shadow of her past and finally letting it go. So she chose her dress carefully, not to impress anyone, but to remind herself she was still beautiful. She wrote a letter the night before. Not to attack or expose him, but to tell her truth. To release the words that had been trapped inside her for so long. The letter spoke of the pain she endured, the confusion, and how she rebuilt her life without bitterness. It told Ethan, and maybe even Lena, the kind of man he had been, and the kind of woman she had become. When she sealed that envelope, her hands were steady. She felt a calmness she hadn't felt in years. Maya didn't go to the wedding for revenge. She didn't want to ruin anything. She wanted closure. A quiet ending to a story that had once broken her. That letter in her hand wasn't meant to destroy anyone. It was her truth, simple, honest, and free. And as she prepared to walk into that hall, she reminded herself of one thing. She wasn't the same woman Ethan once left behind. She was stronger now, strong enough to face her past without fear. The ceremony began quietly. Soft music filled the hall, as everyone turned to watch the bride walk in. Lena looked beautiful. Her white gown shimmered under the golden lights. Maya sat in the last row, her hands resting on her lap, the letter still clutched between her fingers. She watched as Ethan turned toward his new bride, smiling in that familiar way. The same smile that once made her believe he would never hurt her. For a moment, she felt her heart tighten. Not out of love, but from the painful memory of what used to be. The priest started speaking about love, trust, and faithfulness. His voice echoed through the hall. Maya tried to focus on the ceremony, but her thoughts wandered. Every word about honesty and second chances felt like a knife twisting deeper into her chest. Then Ethan began his vows. His voice was calm, warm, practiced. "I promise to be honest," he said, looking into Lena's eyes. "To always protect you, to never let the past control us, and to believe in second chances." Maya's fingers tightened around the letter. Her knuckles turned white. Honesty. Loyalty. Seconde chance. The words rang in her ears like cruel jokes. She could almost hear the echoes of the lies he once told her. The same lips now speaking of love and truth. Her heart pounded, but she kept her face calm. She refused to let a single tear fall. When the priest asked if anyone had an objection, the hall went silent. Maya's breath caught. For a moment, she felt an urge to stand, to speak, to finally tell everyone what kind of man Ethan truly was. Her hand trembled slightly, halfway between restraint and impulse. But then her eyes moved across the hall, and stopped on someone she recognized, Lena's father, Mr. Roberts. He was an old family friend, a kind man who had known Maya since she was young. Their families used to spend holidays together. She remembered the look on his face years ago when he quietly told her he didn't trust Ethan. Now seeing him here, standing proudly beside his daughter, Maya felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Mr. Roberts caught her eye. For a brief second, recognition flashed in his gaze. Surprise, then something like concern. Ethan noticed it too. His confident smile faltered just a little. A drop of sweat appeared on his temple. Maya saw it. So did Mr. Roberts. The moment passed quickly, but the tension lingered like smoke. Maya sat back, her pulse slowing down. She realized she didn't need to speak. She didn't need to stop the wedding. The truth had a way of revealing itself, and it would, in its own time. She looked down at the letter again. She knew now when she would give it. Not during the ceremony, not in anger, but before the reception, quietly when the crowd thinned. It wasn't about humiliating Ethan. It was about releasing herself from the weight she'd been carrying. As the couple exchanged rings, applause filled the hall. Everyone smiled, clapped and cheered. Maya's lips curved slightly, not in happiness, but in acceptance. She had made her choice. She would not be part of the noise. Her silence would speak louder than any words. Ethan looked her way once more, his expression uneasy. Maybe he could sense it, that she knew something he didn't want exposed. Maya didn't look away. Her calm eyes met his for just a second, enough to make him shift nervously before turning back to his bride. The ceremony continued. The laughter returned. But under all the joy, a quiet storm brewed, one that only a few could feel. Maya sat still, her hands now relaxed around the letter. She didn't come to destroy his wedding. She came to end her story. The right way, the peaceful way. And though she didn't say a word, everyone who glanced her way could feel something powerful in her silence. Something that made even the happiest music sound just a little uneasy. The reception began in full color. Music playing, glasses clinking, and laughter echoing through the large decorated hall. Guests danced, waiters carried trays of champagne, and flashes from cameras filled the air. Everyone looked happy, celebrating love and new beginnings. Maya sat quietly at a corner table, her plate untouched. She smiled when people passed by, but her eyes were far away. The letter still rested in her purse, heavy as if it carried her whole heart inside it. Then she saw Lena walking toward her. The bride looked radiant, her veil removed now, her hair soft around her shoulders. She stopped in front of Maya with a gentle smile. "I'm really glad you came," Lena said kindly. "I didn't think you would, after everything." Maya looked up at her, a bit surprised by the warmth in her voice. "I almost didn't," she replied softly. Lena laughed nervously and sat beside her. "It means a lot. Ethan told me you've both made peace with the past. I respect that." Maya's lips curved into a small smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Peace," she repeated quietly. "That's a nice word." Lena nodded, still cheerful, unaware of the quiet storm inside the woman sitting next to her. She began talking about the honeymoon, about how lucky she felt, and how Ethan had been through so much but deserved happiness. Each word felt like a pin pricking Maya's chest. She didn't want to ruin this woman's day, but looking at Lena, bright, kind, and so trusting, she saw herself from years ago. The same innocence, the same blind belief. Her throat tightened. "Lena," she said softly, "do you really know him?" Lena blinked, a little confused. "Of course. We've been together for 2 years now." Maya nodded slowly, her eyes lowering. "Then I hope you always see the version of him you fell in love with." Before Lena could ask what she meant, Ethan appeared. He walked over, smiling too widely, his arm wrapping around Lena's shoulders. His tone was sharp beneath the sweetness. "Maya," he said smoothly, "didn't expect you to still be here. I hope you're enjoying yourself." Maya looked at him, her face calm. "It's a beautiful event," she said. Ethan's eyes hardened for a moment, his smile fading slightly. He turned to Lena. "You shouldn't trouble her too much, sweetheart. I'm sure she's tired." Lena frowned. "She's not troubling me, Ethan. We were just talking." He forced a laugh and looked back at Maya. "Let's not make today about old memories, okay? We've all moved on." The tone of his voice made Maya's stomach twist. She could hear the warning hidden beneath his words. "Don't you dare." Before she could reply, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" It was Jordan, Maya's brother. He had been standing nearby, watching the exchange. His tall frame and steady gaze made Ethan step back slightly. "No problem," Ethan said quickly. "We were just catching up." Jordan crossed his arms. "Good. Because my sister doesn't owe you anything. Not your time, not your silence." Ethan's jaw tightened. "This isn't the place, Jordan." Jordan smiled coldly. "You're right. It's not. But you don't get to tell her what to do anymore." Guests nearby started to notice the tension. Conversations quieted. Eyes turned toward them. The music still played, but the cheerful rhythm felt awkward now, like it didn't belong in that moment. Lena looked confused, her eyes darting between the three of them. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Maya stood up, her voice calm but firm. "Nothing, Lena. Nothing that should spoil your day." She picked up her purse, looked at her brother, and gave him a small nod. A silent way of saying it's okay. Then she walked toward the exit, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. She pushed through the doors and stepped outside into the cool night air. The noise from the hall faded behind her. Out here, it was quiet, just the sound of wind and distant music. Maya leaned against a pillar trying to breathe. Her hands trembled. Her chest felt heavy, like all the emotions she'd buried had finally risen. She tried to hold it in, but the tears came anyway. Hot, silent tears streaming down her face. For a moment, she wasn't strong. She wasn't calm. She was just human, breaking all over again. Maya. She turned to see her mother walking toward her. The older woman's eyes were gentle, her steps slow. Without a word, she pulled Maya into a hug. Maya sank into her mother's arms, shaking quietly. I thought I was done crying, Maya whispered. Her mother brushed her hair gently. Crying doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're still healing. Maya nodded, breathing deeply. I don't want to hurt anyone, Mama. I just want to be free from it all. Her mother smiled softly. Then tell the truth. Not for revenge, but for peace. The truth isn't a weapon, my love. It's a release. Maya looked up, the wind brushing her hair back. The hall lights glowed behind her like distant stars. She wiped her tears, her expression calmer now. Inside, laughter had started again. The world was still moving, but something inside her had shifted. She reached into her purse and touched the letter. That small envelope that carried so much weight. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Freedom, Maya whispered. That's all I want. And in that quiet moment, she knew exactly what she would do next. The band started playing soft music as the guests clapped and cheered. The lights dimmed, and the host announced, "Now it's time for the couple's first dance." Everyone turned toward the center of the hall, where Ethan and Lena stood together, smiling for the cameras. Maya stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart calm but heavy. She had been silent all evening, holding everything in. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. The truth isn't revenge. It's freedom. She took a deep breath and began to walk forward. Her heels tapped against the floor, one steady step after another. The laughter slowly faded as people turned to watch her. The music softened. Within seconds, the hall grew quiet. Ethan looked up, his smile freezing. His face turned pale. Lena followed his gaze, confused. Maya stopped a few feet from them. She wasn't shaking anymore. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm and clear. "Lena," she said softly, "I have something for you." She reached into her purse and took out the sealed letter. The same one she had held all day. The white envelope looked small in her hand, but it carried the weight of years of silence. She walked closer and handed it to Lena. The bride looked uncertain. "What is this?" "Something I should have said a long time ago," Maya replied. Then she stepped back, her eyes not leaving Ethan's. He took a step forward, panic flickering in his expression. "Maya, don't." But she didn't say another word. She simply folded her hands in front of her and waited. Lena looked at Ethan, then at the letter. The silence in the hall was thick. Curious whispers spread around the room. Finally, Lena broke the seal and began to read. Her voice was soft at first, trembling. "Dear Ethan," she read. "When you left me, I spent months trying to understand what I did wrong. I blamed myself for your coldness, your distance, your lies. But now I know the truth. I wasn't too emotional. I wasn't too demanding. I was just too honest for someone who lived behind a mask." The guests went completely still. All eyes were on Lena. Ethan's face turned red. He took a step closer. "Lena, stop reading." But she didn't stop. Her hands shook, but her voice grew stronger. "You made me doubt my own mind. You told me I imagined things when I caught you lying. You made me feel small so you could feel powerful. And when I finally saw through it, you left. Not because I failed you, but because you couldn't stand the woman who saw your truth." Gasps filled the hall. Someone dropped a glass. Ethan tried to reach for the letter, but Lena pulled away. "I'm not here to ruin your day," she continued. "I came to let go of the pain. But before I do, I want to warn the woman standing where I once stood. Be strong, because men like Ethan don't change. They only hide better." The last words echoed through the hall like thunder. Lena's lips trembled as she looked up at Ethan. "Is this true?" she whispered. He stammered, his hands raised defensively. "She's lying. She's jealous. She came here to destroy us." But his voice cracked, and the fear in his eyes told everyone the truth. The room erupted in murmurs. Guests stared, shocked and uncomfortable. Some turned away. Others watched like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Lena stared at him, her eyes full of tears. "You told me she was unstable," she said quietly. "You said she made everything up." "Maya's bitter," he snapped. "You can't believe." But before he could finish, Lena stepped back. Her expression hardened. She looked at the letter again, then at Maya. "Thank you," she said softly. Then she turned away from Ethan. Without another word, she walked out of the hall, her wedding dress dragging behind her like a trail of broken dreams. Ethan stood frozen, his face pale and lost. People were whispering, cameras flashing, voices rising. He tried to follow Lena, but someone stopped him at the door. The chaos grew louder, guests gasping, reporters outside starting to shout questions. Maya didn't move. She stood quietly amid the noise, her expression calm. She wasn't smiling, but there was peace in her eyes. For years, she had carried the weight of his lies, the shame, the silence. But in that moment, the burden lifted. She didn't need revenge, applause, or pity. She only needed the truth to be seen. And it finally was. Ethan turned back toward her, his voice low, desperate. "You ruined me," he said through clenched teeth. Maya met his gaze steadily. "No," she said. "You did that yourself." Then she turned and walked away, out of the hall, out of the noise, out of the life that had once broken her. Behind her, chaos continued. Guests arguing, Ethan shouting, flashes going off. But Maya didn't look back. For the first time in years, she felt light. The night air outside was cool against her skin. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and whispered to herself, "It's finally over." And it truly was. The hall was in complete chaos. Guests whispered, cameras flashed, and Ethan's voice echoed somewhere behind her. Angry, desperate, broken. But Maya didn't look back. She walked straight toward the doors, her steps calm and steady. The noise faded with every step she took. When she stepped outside, the cool evening air touched her face. It felt like a gentle hug after years of storm. Reporters waiting outside saw her and rushed forward, microphones in hand. "Miss Maya, what happened inside? Did you plan this? Was the letter really about Ethan?" Maya stopped for a second, looked at them, and said softly, "The truth doesn't need headlines." Then she walked away. No anger, no tears, just quiet strength. Her car was waiting nearby. Jordan opened the door for her, his eyes full of pride. "You did the right thing," he said. Maya gave a small smile. "It wasn't easy." He nodded. "Nothing real ever is." They drove home in silence. City lights flashed through the windows, but Maya's mind was far away. She thought about the woman she used to be, scared, unsure, trapped in a world built by someone else's lies. And now she was free. When they reached home, her mother was waiting by the door. She didn't ask questions. She just opened her arms, and Maya walked straight into them. The warmth of that embrace said everything. "I'm proud of you," her mother whispered. Maya rested her head on her shoulder. "It's over, Mama. Finally over." Her mother smiled softly. "No, my love. It's just beginning, your real life." Later that night, Maya sat in her room. On the table lay a small box filled with pieces of her past. Old photos, a ring, a few letters from Ethan. She looked at them quietly for a moment. Then she picked up one photo, their wedding picture, and studied it. Two smiling faces. So much love that had turned into pain. With steady hands, she lit a candle. The flame flickered gently. She held the photo over it until the edges curled and darkened. The paper burned slowly, the image disappearing into ashes. Her mother watched from the doorway, tears in her eyes, not from sadness, but relief. "Let it go," she whispered. "I already have," Maya replied, her voice calm. From the living room, Jordan called out with a laugh, "Just so you know, Ethan's already trending." Not for the reasons he wanted. Maya smiled for the first time that night, a real, peaceful smile. "He can have the spotlight," she said. "I've had enough of living in it." She walked to her desk, opened her laptop, and began to type. The screen glowed softly in the dark. At the top of the page she wrote, "Healing after silence, my story." Her fingers moved slowly at first, then faster, as she poured her heart out, not about revenge or pain, but about survival, about the strength it takes to rebuild yourself when someone has tried to break you. She wrote about the girl she used to be, the woman she became, and the courage it took to stand in front of the world with nothing but the truth. Each word felt lighter, like she was setting herself free all over again. When she finished, she sat back in her chair and looked at the last line she had written. Sometimes healing begins when you finally stop hiding. A quiet peace filled the room. The candle beside her flickered softly, its light warm against her face. Outside, the world kept moving. Cars passing, people talking, life continuing. But inside Maya's heart, there was stillness, the kind that comes only after a long, hard storm. For the first time in years, she didn't feel broken. She didn't feel small. She felt free. Weeks passed. The noise around Ethan's ruined wedding slowly faded away, replaced by quiet days and soft mornings. Maya spent most of her time writing and helping others online who had gone through the same kind of pain. Each message she received reminded her that truth, no matter how hard, always heals. One afternoon, as sunlight poured through her window, her laptop pinged with a new email. She opened it. The sender's name made her pause. From Lena. Her heart beat faster. She hesitated for a second, then clicked. The message was short, just one line. "Thank you for your honesty. I left him." Maya stared at the screen. A soft smile formed on her lips, but tears filled her eyes. She wasn't sad. It was something deeper, a quiet kind of relief. She whispered, "You found your strength." Closing the laptop gently, she looked out the window. The sky was golden, filled with the warm colors of evening. The world seemed calm, the kind of calm that comes only after storms have passed. She took a deep breath, her reflection faint in the glass, and softly said to herself, "Sometimes, the letter isn't for them. It's for us to finally let go." Her voice was steady, her eyes peaceful. No more fear, no more anger, just acceptance. The camera would linger on her face. A woman who once broke into pieces but learned to build herself again, stronger, wiser, freer. As the light faded around her, she closed her eyes and smiled. Fade out on Maya's calm expression. Not revenge, not victory, but peace. Hi besties. Sparkling heart, thank you so much for watching till the end. If you felt Maya's story, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Waving hand sparkles.